Going to call to order Monday, October 28th, 2024, the regular meeting of the Jersey Shore Area School District Board of School Directors. Can I have a roll call, please, Mr. Enders?
Mr. Allen.
Present.
Mr. Bringard. Here. Kellman.
Here.
Ms. Edwards. McDonald.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Furman.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Semler.
Here.
Members present, one absent.
Next, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Ozenbach. Dr. Battaglia.
So I just want to introduce the students that I have chosen. I have Bryson Fry, Hayden Zellers, Alyssa G., and Declan Daimler. I asked these guys to be our pledge leaders because they had a task for Mr. Bischoff to create a newscast video about a region of the United States. They used iMovie. Their technology usage was better than probably any of ours in this classroom, and I was just really impressed with their work. So that's why they're here to lead the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Ozenbach has something for you. Next, we will have approval of the minutes.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Approval of the treasurer's report. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
I'll second.
Any questions or concerns, Mr. Enders?
I do want to point out to the board, there, as I said at the last board meeting, there were 4 new investments in September to Journey Bank, the 3, the 6, the 9, and the 12-month investment. We bought 4 CDs, $750,000 a piece, so we invested $3 million right before the Fed cut rates in the middle of September. I'll be speaking more on those next, when we're talking about the bills.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Approval of the bills. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or concerns?
So the bills are higher than normal. However, the biggest thing that drove up the bills is the way Journey Bank wanted to invest those CDs, cut a check to ourselves. So when you look at the approval of the bills, there's a $3 million check written to the Jersey Shore Area School District that we literally took to the bank and they used it to purchase the 4 CDs I just referenced. So the check is included in this listing, that's why the bills are so high. Other than that, when I went through the bills, there was a $145,000 payment to the IU. That was our final special ed bill for 23-24 school year. And the tuition payment to Sugar Valley Charter School for July, August, and September was on there. That was $310,824.48. That was for 3 months. Just on the capital reserve payment, that is for the Avis project, we have paid to date $987,496 on that, and there was $232,000 remaining to be paid on that. We're probably about 80% complete. So that's all I have regarding bills. Questions?
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say aye. Motion passes. Moving on to communications, I know Dr. Ulmer is not physically here, but he is online with us. So I will turn it over to you, Dr. Ulmer.
I just want to recognize, as we have had some publicity for the maintenance grants, the district did receive $600,000 from the state in the maintenance grant funding, and I wanted to publicly thank Senator Young, Representative Ham, and Representative Borowitz, who supported our efforts in securing those grants, as well as Mr. Wall, who helped me write them, and under our construction management company, SiteLogic, who gave us some technical advice as we navigated the process. We were funded $600,000 out of the 630 we asked for Avis and the high school. We were not funded for Salisbury Elementary, but the other projects were funded.
Thank you, Dr. Ulmer. Does the board have any questions concerning that? Okay. Under President's Report, we had an executive session prior to tonight's meeting discussing legal and personnel. And I just also wanted to draw attention for those that are here in the building tonight. We have 2 signs up on either side, as you can see next to you on the walls, to give you public access to the Wi-Fi so that you are able to view the attachments on tonight's agenda. So if you can, I think you can see above where it says public restroom, there is a Wi-Fi password there. Over here on this wall, the same. So if you would like to be able to view and read along for the attachments, you can do so, okay? Moving on to the committee reports. Harry, do you have anything under the Building and Grounds Committee?
Yeah, I might add, tonight, we took a tour, the Building and Grounds Committee, along with Mr. Wall and Dr. Allmer, took a tour of the middle school. We looked at some of the ceramic tile, the stairways, the gym floor, and the ceiling, and various things that we had talked about that were prioritized in the SiteLogic report. I guess we're going to wait. We have some concerns basically on how some of these repairs are going to be made, like the stairwell, whether they're going to sandblast them or what, some of the lockers. I think we have to wait till we get some information back from SiteLogic until we find out which direction we're going to proceed with that. So most of the HVAC system, we're going to go forward with that. And I think Mr. Wall did we talked about replacing the entire gym floor in there. And I think Mr. Wall had somebody look at the gym today and going to get back to him with a price on sanding it down to the bare wood and then poly in it or doing something with it. Probably put polyurethane on it or whatever. So we're going to wait till we hear back from them and then go from there. Okay,
All right.
you guys have anything else to?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Moving on to the student representative report.
I have no report.
All right, thank you. Under superintendent's report, Mr. Enders.
So I gave you two attachments at your seats. First one I'm gonna go over is the budget calendar. The budget calendar is color coded. There's a code at the back of it. Anything in red, you can ignore if in January we pass a resolution to stay within the index. That's what's scheduled to happen in January. Anything that's bolded are key steps in this process, okay? One of the things I want to point to you is we are slightly accelerated than we would typically have been. I'll give you a preview of the board calendar. Right now, due to the Memorial Day holiday, we are only scheduled to have one meeting in May. So we are moving essentially everything up about one meeting, which is, I think, will be good and beneficial to us. The other thing is that we are changing how we are handling the budget binder section presentations. Instead of having one every meeting from essentially February until April, we're going to hand you the information, and a month later, we're going to present like 3 of the sections at once. We'll hand you the information, and a month later, we'll present 3 of the other sections at once. So that's going to be slightly different than what it has in the past. But outside of that, we kind of are in a normal budget calendar year. I believe last year we were accelerated. We had to approve the resolution to stay within the index in November. We are back to our normal schedule. We'll be due starting in January. That will be done at the end of the last meeting of January, and we'll move forward from there. Just for your information, and you'll hear this several times between now and when you approve it, the state index has been passed, that has been set, that's 4%. Our adjusted index is 5.5%. We are kind of in the range of other Lycoming County schools. Lycoming County ranges from 5 to 5.7. Keystone is at 5.3. So, Barry, don't ask me how much that means. I don't even have access to the budget yet to even calculate it.
Not even an approximate number for
No.
100,000.
No, I don't even have approximate. Like I said, I checked this morning. The PD has not even released the budget to even calculate what it means for us with a multi-county school.
When are we gonna have a projected budget?
Well, I'll start giving you budget information in February. We will really start getting down to the nitty-gritty in March.
Okay, because you should know just about everything, all the salaries and everything are set pretty much. I mean, the state funding, federal funding, expenditures are gonna vary very little.
Well, the only thing I will correct you on that is that the contract, yes, is set. However, retirements aren't due till March 1st. So that's going to have, my prediction, a significant impact on salaries and benefits this year. So that's why I'm saying March is when we're going to start getting down to the nitty-gritty.
There's no way to get a widespread estimate earlier.
Well, I can get you a
So we have
widespread
something to
estimate,
work. I
but
know
it's
it's
an
not gonna be definite, it's not even,
No.
maybe.
I can get you a
close.
widespread estimate. I'm working on a widespread estimate today. So, yeah, you're gonna start seeing it and hearing it in January. I just know it's going to evolve, and it's going to evolve fast. It's gonna change drastically.
Right, yeah, okay.
Any other questions regarding the calendar? I am going to, I believe I was scheduled to talk about Plan Con J's. I'm going to skip that. I'm going to move that to last. And I want to talk about our charter school tuition rates. That's the other form I gave you. If you remember, I believe it was the first meeting of August. I gave you a update on the state budget. At that point in time, I think I said to you that they set charter school tuition rates to change effective January 1st, and we weren't even sure how they were going to do it. Well, this is the form they did it. So there are 3 gray lines on this form. That's the most important lines for you guys. Our regular ed students for any charter school for 24-25 is $13,588.95 per year per student. That is a decrease from our 23-24 rates. Decrease is just over $1,100. So we were just shy of $14,700 last year. Special ed, you'll see there's 2 lines there. So the first line is for brick and mortar charter schools and any cyber school from July 1st through including December 31st. That rate is $29,905.91. The cyber charter schools, effective July 1st, remember this was all part of the state budget, is $27,176.96. Both of those numbers are decreases from where they were in 23-24. 23-24 rate was just over $31,300. So we're looking at about $1,400 for Sugar Valley and $4,000 for cyber school. Any questions regarding charter school rates? Plan Con J's. If I told you the whole story behind this, we'd be here till Christmas.
So,
The sum of the story is this. On September the 17th, PDE approved our Plan Con J's for both the middle school and the high school projects. The middle school and high school projects we're talking about are the projects that were done in the early 2000s. Through the past month, we've been working with PDE on the dollars of those Plan Con J's and what the impact to the district. And last week, it was finalized that the district owes PDE $536,131.92.
can you repeat that number again?
536,131.92.
Thank you.
So we submitted these Plan Con J's in January of 2019. Coincidentally, at the same time, we received back our reimbursement for the JSC Plan Con J, the JSC project. At that time, the board voted to commit, and back up. We knew there was a chance that we owed money for the middle school and high school Plan Con J. When we got the reimbursement from JSC, the board voted to commit a majority portion of that funds to fund these 2 Plan Con J's. So the good news in this is you have $380,000 sitting in your fund balance to help pay for this. You will have to use $155,000 of your uncommitted fund balance to offset the rest. What happens with the Plan Con J process, we've been talking about a lot lately with our debt payments. PDE reimburses us a portion of those debt payments. When they first set that reimbursement, they set it at a temporary reimbursement rate. The Plan Con J finalizes that reimbursement rate. In this case, it lowered the reimbursement rate. And this goes back so far that there's been so many debt payments involved with these two projects. That's where this net number comes out at. So at a future meeting, you'll see a resolution, agenda item, to uncommit this $380,000. The good news for you is that this finalizes the middle school and high school projects. Are there any questions regarding those Plan Con Js? I know some of you were here when we had discussed this and did the approval to submit them. I can tell you the board meeting was January 28th of 2019. When we ratified it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Enders. Moving on to courtesy of the floor, there is nobody that has signed up this evening, so we will move on to personnel. Items to approve, A through F. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Under curriculum and instruction, items to approve, letter A. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Under buildings and grounds, items to approve, letters A and B. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Under finance, approving letters A and B. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
I'll second.
Any questions or concerns?
Ben, can you do a little bit of an
Yeah, so what we're
explanation?
doing here is, when we did the 23-24 budget, that was right before the teacher's contract was approved. And the district's position has always been, we put an estimate of any contract that's not ratified at the time in the budgetary reserve line. So this moves the amounts that were in the contingency account, the budgetary reserve account, moves the budget out of the budgetary reserve and into the respective salaries and benefits accounts that they should go to. So this is only moving budget. Essentially, it's to probably the last piece of the 23-24 audit.
Any questions for Mr. Enders? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say aye. Motion passes. Under miscellaneous, items to approve, A through F. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say aye. Motion passes. Okay, now we will move on to old business, where I will open it up to the board members to discuss anything that they would like to discuss. So I'm not hearing anything, so before I move on, I just want to make sure if this is the last call for any discussion. Okay. Next, we will move on to courtesy of the floor. You can please state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Pryor, Mifflin Township. Good evening, Board. First, I'd just like to give a big thank you to Ben Enders and our superintendent for the good job they've been doing in managing our district finances. Sometimes it's amazing where money shows up, but it is nice when it does show up. And I do know that Senator Yaw and Joe Ham, our representative, worked really hard to get those grants to us, so I guess you'll probably be sending them some sort of thank you for that. But my main concern is communication in the district. I mean, we have 9 directors, 3 districts, and there's no way the taxpayers can communicate with our directors. No way at all. We can't do it here because they're not required to answer us. We can't ask them the questions. We have to go through the president, the chairman. There's no way for us to hold them accountable except 4 years down the road at an election day. I think it's important that we be able to have a forum to meet and ask our directors questions and get some answers. I have 3 directors, and 2 of them are very cooperative. They help out. They listen to ideas. I have one, however, that turns away and walks away without saying anything. Very disgusting, very rude. I want to hear answers from my directors, especially when they have on their sign one of their things they're going to do when they get elected, communication. You put anything on a sign. But the board ought to develop some sort of a forum where we can meet with our directors. They expect us to re-elect them or elect them, and then we hear nothing from them. Some of them. Other ones we do. So there's no other way for us. We can't do it here. We can send all the emails we want, make all the phone calls. Nothing. Not from all of them, but from some. I think it's wrong. We got to have input with our directors. So the taxpayers have input rather than just certain groups like just the parents and just the school district. Many of whom don't even live in our district or pay property taxes in Why do they have input when all the taxpayers don't? You know what I'm talking about. You know, questionnaires on the internet, on the district website. People didn't know about that. So let's be fair and not show bias. I just think it's important because our directors need to give us answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor.
Becky Freezer, Anthony Township. I'm here tonight with other parents that have elementary age students within the district, and we'd like to present you with a petition that was put out. This petition received 438 signatures from people within the district, and I'm going to go ahead and read you what was presented to individual as they signed. Residents of Jersey Shore Area School District have been dealing with threats of school closure for over a decade. Once again, the issue has been raised with a vote on whether or not to close Saldiesburg Elementary. Take place on or after November 5th, 2024. Residents have just recently been made aware of a 10-year plan developed by the superintendent that, if approved, would also close Avis Elementary and realign grade levels in the Jersey Shore Elementary School and Middle School. With the potential closure of Saldiesburg in 2025, Jersey Shore Elementary School would initially house all Saldiesburg students. This would create an overcrowded building housing a student population above its architect-defined capacity, larger class sizes, possible impacts on curriculum, and longer bus rides for young children. With only a projected $100,000 savings in operating costs from the closure of Saldiesburg, the superintendent hopes to realize an additional $800,000 in savings by eliminating various members of district staff, including 5 teachers. Where those teacher cuts would occur and impact on class size and curriculum have yet to be identified. Next to occur in approximately year 5 of the 10-year plan would be the closure of Avis Elementary School. At that time, JSC would become a K-4 building. The middle school would house grades 5 through 8, and an extensive renovation of the middle school would be completed. However, exact details have not been released explaining how these changes would be implemented, the cost to taxpayers and the effects on class sizes, possible impacts to curriculum, and length of bus rides. Because these changes would affect every student and resident in our district in some fashion, and because there are so many unknowns that must be addressed, the need for review of the plan by professional architects and engineers who specialize in educational facility planning must take place to assure that the plan is functional and feasible, as well as in the best interest of the students and residents before any closure decision by the board is made. It is the request of the undersigned that any school closure vote be postponed indefinitely until all planning has been completed and reviewed by the experts. Alternatives to this plan also to be considered, and that all board members and district residents' questions and concerns be satisfactorily addressed before and if a vote is taken. If a board vote is held, it has real potential to do significant harm to the quality of education children receive in this district and prove unnecessary costs to district residents. Rather than save taxpayers money as promised by avoiding additional tax increases, it is more likely this plan will prove to be quite costly, placing an even greater financial burden on residents. The undersigned also requests that a district-wide committee be created to participate in the facility planning comprised of volunteers from district residents and faculty. Thank you. And I have the list if I'm allowed to give that to the board.
You can give it to Ted in the back, and he can distribute it to us afterwards.
Who's Ted?
He's the security, yep, here he comes.
He's standing
He's
up.
right here. Thank you, Becky. Go ahead, you can state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Kristen Morris from Anthony Township. I just want to touch on a few things as it relates to voting to close SAL. It is your duty as elected board members to put the education of these students and their best interests as your first priority. A few statistics about smaller schools versus larger schools. Based on a study in July of 2023, if all schools were under 350, U.S. schools would rank at the top of any international ranking. As far as safety, I hate to bring up school shootings, but After Columbine shooting many years ago, one of the things Colorado Governor Bill Owens did was form a commission to identify key factors that may have contributed. The report acknowledged the task of coping with school rage is difficult at larger schools, where students tend to feel marginalized and less a part of the school community than students at small schools feel. It is difficult for administrators in large schools to create a supportive atmosphere for students. Smaller schools create communities where students are known, encouraged, and supported. Learning is more equitably distributed in smaller schools. Smaller schools create more opportunities per capita. A larger percentage of students participate, and they participate in more types of activities. Small school parents are closer and more involved, a critical factor in student success. Small schools offer students, teachers, and school leaders a substantially greater sense of connectedness, belonging, and safety than larger schools do. Also, keep in mind when the next closure for Avis comes around, the National Center for Education found schools with more than 1,000 students had far higher rates of violent student behaviors than schools with 300 students and less. And students who were in small schools were far less likely to be victims of crime. Years ago, JSASD parents fought for smaller class sizes. They didn't like the large class sizes, at which point there were over 20 students in many of the classrooms. They seemed to care about that and redrew boundary lines. Now you're proposing 20 to 25 kids in a class, so we're right back to where we were. If education truly were your first priority, when the topic first arose, it should have been approached in a way of how do we save the school? Instead, it was an easy way out. Another topic is student transportation. You say that all middle school and high school students are bused into town from Salisbury. Well, that's possible because the elementary school kids get on the bus at 6:15 in the morning to get to the school so the buses can get back out and pick up the middle school and high school students and get them to town in time for school to start. I have yet to get a clear answer as to how you will accomplish getting students to town. Will the elementary schools be picked up even earlier, or will they ride the bus with high schoolers? I don't want my second grader riding the bus with kids that are 10 years older than her. Going back to the hearing information that was provided, at the hearing presentation, Dr. Ulmer stated that Salisbury needed about $845,000 worth of repairs under the alarm category. It was also stated that Sal's HVAC needs were $1.5 million. If that were true, then why did the D grant that was applied for only include a hot water heater for $75,000? The reason we were denied this grant was because we didn't meet the minimum of $500,000 worth of needs. So do we need these repairs? Are we using it as an excuse to close the school but not take the appropriate and dutiful action to get the grant money to help us? Or do we not need the repairs, which is why it wasn't included in the grant application?
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Hello, Justin Wall, Anthony Township. I want to start kind of where I left off and the main point so it gets summarized correctly tomorrow by Dr. Omer and Ms. Holter. The proposed closure and borrowing results in an average throughout the span of the borrowing of $975,000 in interest, and the proposed savings is $860,000 for an immediate loss. My question is, if we are looking for a savings and on average we're losing money, does that benefit the taxpayers who sit out here hoping to lower our tax millage? To me, if you're $36 million borrowed, minus the fees for SiteLogic, which is 10%. On the grant that was just submitted, it was 10%. So take 36 and minus 3.6, losing money there. Are we okay spending more on interest than what we saved from a closure? I submitted this to all of you, a picture running through those numbers. I'll pause now if there's any questions for me. if we're out to save money, then shouldn't we think of our district like a business? The parents who you hear from have choices. Anytime you enter a closure, they all have to make a choice. Closed Nippono's historic example was 35 kids didn't come. Every cohort of kindergartners since then had to make that decision as a family. So if you lose just half that number, that's $300,000 off your $860,000. And then I asked another question last meeting, and this would have been good for old business discussion. But if we're bringing 200 students with learning support needs and special reading needs, why is it you do not need the reading aids and the learning support aids? That's a great question to ask your administrators. It should already be spelled out for you. Who at JSE is going to service those learning needs, and what are they going to give up that they're already doing? Clearly those aides are busy at JSE. They're the hardest working people we have. So minus another $100,000 from that savings because you're going to need them, which is why this district brought back the aides when they closed Nippono's. So you're at a $400,000 savings, but remember you're spending $975,000 on average in interest just to further this agenda of school closure. If you pay as you go, and mind you, minus the alarm and alerts and the cautionary items, there's only 16 of them that are mechanical. And only 3 of those appear on your priority list. You are in prime position to pay as you go, keep schools open, and get taxpayers savings they want, which is to save that $28 million in interest, and you can give part of that back and lower your millage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall.
Yeah, good evening, Board. John Sharman, Region 2. What I'm about to say is not a personal attack on anybody. I witnessed the last board meeting, we're watching it on YouTube. Correct procedure for running a meeting is the president or our superintendent has the privilege of running the meeting. Legal counsel hired by the administration and the school board for legal advice or legal decisions. They have no right to be running the school board when running the meeting when they choose.
Mr. Shireman, just so you know, it is under our policy that the solicitor, as well as the board president, can address those that are at the podium. That is how we operate under our policy.
I don't care. I don't think it is right.
Well,
You're taking away from my time, Mrs. Stone.
well, I can give you that time back. I don't mind doing that. I just want to make sure that you understand that that's how we operate under the policy. So it's not the superintendent. It is the board president and it is the solicitor that can actually address those that are speaking at the podium. But I will gladly give back your
If
time.
the board president, not to be smart, or the superintendent is not capable of running the meetings, and then as it happened last meeting, starts harassing a lady that got up here and was very nice and very polite about things. So, never happened. I served on the school board for Mr. Pryor. Am I correct, Mr. Pryor? Okay. And it is a shame you have this up in front here to discourage communications up front. If somebody really wanted to, that's not going to stop anything. Neither is the gentleman in the back with it. But anyways, I think you're making it very hard for yourself to have open communications with the public. One other thing that is addressed that one person who just up here forgot. The school week closed over at Nippono's, and I introduced a motion for that with it again after voting no the first time with it. Is a paying business that pays taxes every year with it. That building got completely gutted over there. And it is no right to send kids to schools that are outdated with it and need a lot of repairs. With it. What do we have, $40 million in repairs altogether that we have to do? There's no plans for anything as far as I can see with it. You have to have a plan first to know how much you're going to spend with it. And we've done it, and their employees, and then that property pays taxes over there. And it pays all the time with employees they got, and it makes a nice atmosphere. But boy, I'll tell you what, that is forgotten by a hell of a lot of people. And for those people who want to try restricting what the public can say or log everybody up with no response at all, I quote a famous Democratic president who I admire most. Who's a Democrat? And I'll clean it up a little bit. Harry Truman said, if you can't stand the heat in the kitchen, it's time to get the H out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shireman.
Brandy Crothers, Porter Township. Just touching on the presentation, oil, the options that were available to us, and if we're truly trying to keep the school open and do what's best for the students, you could reevaluate the items that needed repaired in the buildings, see what needs done today, tomorrow, and in the future, and figure out where the money should be spent. You could get a smaller bond and address the few items that need done now without really increasing our annual payment. Use the budgetary reserve to address anything else that might come up in the next 5 years. Just a little, looks like Williamsport's budgetary reserve is less than 0.5% of their budget, and Stone's is a quarter, less than a quarter, 0.25% of their budget, and then ours is 3%. Looks like ours is 3.5 times what theirs is. So if you really wanted to save the school, we could be working on figuring out what those items are that we actually need to do, not what we want to do. Past 90 days should have been about that to begin with. What can we do to save the school? Not, we want the money, let's close the school. What's best for our kids and their education. And in closing, I think this is the first time I can say that I agree with you prior, that full-heartedly trying to get answers when you reach out to email the school board and have conversations. I maybe will get from one or two. So I full-heartedly agree about that. About getting a forum to have open communications with the board members. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy.
Ray Beerley, Pyatt Township. I just want to piggyback on what some other people's comments were this evening and at the previous meeting. As we approach the possible decision date of when to have a vote on a school closure, I think it is inherent of every board member here to ask some really hard questions about the justification that's being used to close a school. We've heard a lot of explanations, and the goalpost has kind of shifted over the past several years, and we're right now at the point where we have to close an elementary school in order to pay interest on a loan that we're going to take out to do some renovations in the middle school and high school. That doesn't sound, perfectly honest, closing a school to do some renovations, particularly when some of those renovations, even though we've heard numbers of 42 million, really when you look at what Site Logic recommends, we're talking about $6 or $7 million in renovations, and you want to close a school to do that, when in fact you can borrow that money, as we heard from Jamie Doyle 2 meetings ago, and have minimal impact on your budget for the next 5 years. Certainly it's going to cost interest, but between your fund balance money, between that and your budgetary reserve, you can meet that $450,000 a year very easily, and you don't even have to touch taxes. So why in the world would you close a school? Why would you jeopardize the education of those small children? Why would you throw those kids onto buses? Kids that are on buses already, sometimes they start in the dark and get home in the dark. For another, who knows how long, half hour, 45-minute ride on top of the ride that they already have. When you've got money sitting in your budget that could be used to protect the education of those students. You heard a speaker last meeting talk about the long-lasting effects of school closures on these elementary students. It is your first and foremost responsibility as the board of directors to provide the best education possible for the most vulnerable students in our community, these young kids and all the other kids K through 12, because your plan will impact every one of them. So for you to sit there and think closing schools so you can fix some stair steps in the middle school is reasonable and rational, it is a dereliction of duty. And it's a violation of your own policy. Sure that the education comes first. It's a shameful thing to do when you have that money sitting in the bank.
Thank you, Mrs. Beerley. We're now going to close courtesy of floor, and the meeting's adjourned.